We're very pleased with our results that we just released today for Q4 and for the whole year 2022. We started out in early 22. It was a bit difficult with Omicron and the issues in Ukraine, but we had a fantastic summer, especially across the Atlantic. We had more capacity on the Atlantic than we did in 2019. Africa was always a market that was resilient throughout the crisis. South America took a little bit, came on a little later than North America in terms of traffic rebound. And then because of the Russian overflight ban, there has been some benefits for us. There's been a lot of capacity removed from the market to and from the U.S. because of the inability to fly over Russia. So our traffic to India in that area has been really strong, especially coming from North America. And then with Asia being, a big portion of it being closed, this new announcement that the Chinese government has made and their decisions on relaxing most of the restrictions is a very welcomed news for us. So, when you look at 2023, we're quite excited to have choices on where to deploy our capacity. So demand is still strong, yields are good, capacity is quite tight in many of our markets. Paris is a very attractive market. More attractive than we've seen in the past. People who, where there's pent-up demand, Paris is pretty high up on the list. And Amsterdam, of course, even with the operational issues we faced last year, is still a great transfer hub, and we expect it to continue.
And so that's despite the economic uncertainty, as you see the cost of living crisis, etc. You still see people wanting to travel after 2 years of being stuck. You still see people happy to spend on tickets. It's actually quite expensive at the moment.
Yes, we're seeing demand very strong across all of our market segments. Big pent-up demand, as you mentioned, but also I think many of our customers and many new customers that we have reprioritized travel. It's moved up in terms of priority from their what they use their disposable income for. So we're seeing strong demand and very positive.
Well, anyone that's tried to book a holiday like this saw those tickets being very expensive, like much more expensive than before the pandemic. And of course, there's been a problem of staff shortages and high fuel prices, but fuel prices have gone down now. So do you see prices staying at that level, or are we likely to see prices going a little bit down?
Look, a big driver of price increases have been the increased fuel. Mm-hmm. So us as well as our major competitors are putting a lot of effort into making sure that our margins are not hit because of the increase in fuel. And as of today, the marketplace is absorbing those charges. And at Air France-KLM, in particular at Air France, the premium leisure segment has just really exploded. And I'd say the strength of that demand is very different to business travel, or very different from price-conscious, leisure travel we saw in the past. Like premium leisure filling up our first-class cabins, our business-class cabins, premium economy. It's making up for the difference that's lagging on the return of business traffic. And this traffic seems to be very, very resilient to price increases.
May I ask you about Schiphol Airport, because of course the base for KLM, there's been some operational issues there, there's some reduced capacity going forward. So how is this looking for you? How is it impacting your business? Because it has impacted in Q4 in particular. So are you talking to the Dutch government? How do you see this issue going forward?
So this past summer, many airports in Europe experienced operational challenges. The business came back faster than some had predicted. At our group, we had predicted the return. So at Air France, we had enough pilots. Unlike other carriers, we are not dependent on, say, for example, the 777-9 delivery. So we had the number of aircraft that we'd hoped to have. And in some cases, with some small delays, we were able to keep aircraft that were scheduled to retire, keep those a little bit longer. So from a fleet perspective, both at KLM and Air France, I think we were better positioned than many of our competitors. Before I get to KLM and to Amsterdam, in Paris, we had one of the best summer operations that we've ever seen. So from an operational perspective at Roissy, it was quite good. Amsterdam, with the inflationary situation in the Netherlands, which was relatively high, we saw quite a number of employees, baggage and some of the service sectors leave the industry. So quite difficult to attract new staff or staff to replace those jobs, both in security, which is handled by the airport authority, as well as baggage handlers, service workers at KLM. So we've had shortage of people, which has resulted in this summer being artificial limits put on the number of customers that can go through the terminal. So there were operational issues, not unlike many other airports in Europe. So this was not unique to KLM. However, the Dutch state's decision to reduce the number of slots available at Schiphol, we believe is wrong. The objectives that they have in terms of reducing noise and CO2, we're totally aligned with that. We're completely aligned with the Dutch state on that. We do not understand. It's incomprehensible in the way that it's being done on a unilateral basis with no discussion with stakeholders on how to reach those same goals in other ways, which we believe we can do.